SEDI-CASE 2023 USVI Winter Economic Summit will host business leaders of strategic partners from both the private and public sectors industry on December 7th to the 10th. The Winter Economic Summit will bring leaders together to discuss diversifying the U.S. Virgin Islands economy to foster better international trade, commerce, capital market, foreign direct investments, leveraging innovative technology to improve public infrastructure, building an integrated, robust tech sector, bringing thought leaders from academia and knowledge-based sector for research and development in the Americas, the Caribbean, and globally. You're invited to attend and participate and be at the Economic Roundtable to determine and to better align the U.S. Virgin Islands economy for the future. Register now at www.wintersummit.us. And good afternoon. Welcome to another broadcast of the SEDI-CASE project initiative. We are a nonprofit research and development, macroeconomic and public policy think tank. And I'm really happy to be here with you this afternoon. You just heard from one of our various programming here on WSDX Bloomberg. You just heard from my colleagues, former Congressman Donna Christensen, and then, of course, Linda Dorman, the co-host of the program as well. So for the next hour, I'm going to help provide an overview of our major economic summit coming up on December 7th to the 10th. On December 7th to the 10th, 2023, the St. Croix Economic Development Initiative, acronym SEDI, will be hosting its 16th anniversary SEDI-CASE 2023 U.S. Virgin Islands Winter Economic Summit. The Winter Economic Summit will be tackling the tough and challenging economic issues confronting the U.S. Virgin Islands economy to help stimulate and spur new industries, new businesses, and new jobs, and attract new investment capital. All stakeholders, being business owners, entrepreneurs, corporate executives, professional freelancers, government agency heads, community organization, and others. The public are invited to attend and participate in the SEDI-CASE 2023 USVI Winter Economic Summit. To learn more and to register, go to www.wintersummit.us. Again, that's www.wintersummit.us, not .com, .us. www.wintersummit.us. Now, this summit is brought to you by the St. Croix Economic Development Initiative, which was created back in 2007. As a result, back then, it hallmarks to celebrate 16 years since we had the first major economic summit back in 2007 at the University of Virgin Islands. We huddled for 2 days, bringing both public and private sector together, the best and the brightest together to tackle back then what was stagnation of the St. Croix. It did not focus on all of the Virgin Islands. It focused on St. Croix, because at that point, the outcry, we had gotten our EDC program, tax incentive program was if you will, I don't want to use the word, it was modified, because it was highly competitive. We were getting a lot of companies coming here, and there was some concerns that we were taking jobs and businesses away from other states and other jurisdictions throughout the country. And so therefore the program was modified, and in its current form, it is what it is. But prior to that, we saw an influx of companies coming in from all over the country and all industries, setting up shop, investing money here in the territory. And once the program was, if you will, was challenged, Congress then changed, if you will, the rules of the game to make it, to make the, if you will, fair and balanced, if you will, if I can use that description to make it equal to other states and territories as well. And so we saw a mass exodus of companies leaving the territory from the EDC program and RT Park program because of those changes. But more in particular, it was back then the need to be able to diversify the St. Croix economy to be more of a multi-prong approach towards how we market and promote and build and develop and expand and grow our economy. And so back then the idea was to create a U.S. capital market formation and structure system in the Caribbean, Latin American region outside of the U.S. mainland. Because outside of the U.S. mainland, or should I say on the U.S. mainland, we have within Wall Street, and Wall Street is responsible for creating 20% of the businesses and the jobs that are in the borough of Manhattan. Again, Wall Street, the New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, those two entities that help create a very formidable, if in a prominent, if you will, capital market space in the world that is in New York City. That's where we had our last. I took the governor and other members of the U.S. Virgin Islands business community and government, and we held a summit and was hosted by the New York Stock Exchange by the co-chairman, John Tuttle, who hosted us. We rang the bell and we sat down and we introduced the Virgin Islands in a big way. We told them, what the vision was in terms of how we can partner with the New York Stock Exchange to be able to create an alternative, if you will, international emerging capital market system. And they were very receptive, so much so that they're going to be part of the presentation of the upcoming summit coming up December 7th. I'm sorry, Thursday, December 7th to the 10th here on St. Croix. Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to give you the breakdown of very specific areas in where we have been working for at least the past few years, developing, researching, doing extensive research, and developing projects and model enterprises that we're able to literally strategically partner with other jurisdiction, be it on the state level, on the city level, with trade and business organizations, academia, as well as other private sector areas as well. And the reason for that is because there's some uniqueness about St. Croix and the Virgin Islands that's available to us. And if you want those benefits, if you want those special incentives, it's here. It's here in the United States Virgin Islands. And so what I've been doing, I travel extensively, both in my official appointment as the Special Economic Envoy to Taiwan and the Asian Pacific region, but have extended that to be able to say, if we have the ability to form a partnership between Taiwan and the U.S. Virgin Islands, we certainly can do that in our own backyard. And when I say backyard, I'm talking about the U.S. mainland, as well as the rest of the Caribbean and Latin American region and other parts around the world. And so we are going to have a major economic summit, which now includes all of the U.S. Virgin Islands, not just St. Croix, but we're going to take we're going to shine a bright light on the U.S. Virgin Islands economy, look at what that is, and look at where we'll take the SWOT approach, look at the strength, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threat to our, if you will, our ecosystem, and what that needs to look like, not only in the present time, but what it needs to look like in the future. And throughout my years and my journey back home, starting back in 1989 after Hurricane Hugo, and wanting to give back, living in New York as long as I've lived in New York for a quarter century, and moved back home in 2003, where I raised $300 million. I convinced my investor, Ocean First Bank out of Ocean County, New Jersey, to agree to invest over $300 million over a 5-year period to invest in providing loan programs to be able to finance people's desire to own their own home, whether they're going to build from scratch or they're going to buy an existing property. But we came in and we provided a plethora of different options of programs and products that were not available at the time we came into the market. So we brought in other products and programs to expand the availability of options to Virgin Islanders. And we did so very successfully until the if you will, the housing market crashed, the housing bubble crashed and created the greatest recession in 2008. Obviously, we saw a lot of correction. We saw a lot of different financial institutions go out of business. When they didn't go out of business, they merged and they consolidated. And so my investor, Ocean First Bank out of Ocean County, New Jersey, had pulled back and went back to their base, which is Ocean County, New Jersey. I decided to stay here because I had then started the idea. I proposed to create Virgin Islands Stock Exchange when Governor Charles Turnbull, Dr. Charles Turnbull was in office. I said, here's a solution, a viable solution to how we can not only attract more financial service companies, be it investment house, broker dealers, trading companies, banks, if you will, to come and they, some of them were already here, but they took flight after the EDC program was challenged by members of Congress, specifically Senator Grassley challenged the program and got the program modified. But back then, what I said to Governor Turnbull was, we have a great program in the EDC program. The only problem with the program is all these companies, we cast this wide net, and all these companies came and set up shop. But in the eyes of the people in Congress, they saw that as, financial service companies setting up here, but now they were not really vested in the way they are vested, let's say, in Wall Street, where they're actually here making the market, being market makers. And so the idea was, me being a former banker, I said to Dr. Charles Turnbull, let's create our own capital market system to be able to create capital formation and structure, and which now allowed those financial service companies like Wall Street to be active members of the Virgin Islands Stock Exchange. Governor loved it, create the executive order, and I became the co-chairman of the Virgin Islands Stock Exchange. And we then went before the legislature, got unanimous support and approval to be able to proceed. I raised the investors, we had the technology, but unfortunately, former Governor Governor Charles Turnbull, when he created it was an executive order. It wasn't law. It wasn't legislative. So what that means, it was only good as that document or the executive order was only good at the time Charles Turnbull was in office. And if his successor chose to embrace it and to continue it, then it would have continued. Unfortunately, the governor's successor chose not to pursue creating our own capital market system. It is unfortunate, but that's just the reality of the game. And I coined a phrase, miss opportunities, lost economy. Let me say that again. I've coined a phrase, miss opportunities. And we know there've been many opportunities presented here in the U.S. Virgin Islands, particularly the island of St. Croix, but we have not capitalized on them. We have not converted. It never manifested. It never came to fruition, because a lot of times the politics played a devastating role to why a lot of major projects that could have really helped St. Croix advance, expand, and grow and diversifying its economy. And unfortunately, that never happened because, again, one administration embraced it, but the incumbent administration chose not to embrace it. And so we don't have that. But here we are. I never gave up. I never wavered. I continued to forge ahead. And as I said, earlier this year, we held the summit, the U.S. Virgin Islands New York Summit at the New York Stock Exchange, on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, at the New York Stock Exchange headquarters. We were there at the ringing of the bell. The governor and certain key administrators, members of his administration, attended the summit, as well as key members of the private sector. So we are one step closer to bringing to fruition and bringing that to reality. And so I want to be able to tell you what to expect when you sign up to attend the SEDI-CASE. And again, SEDI is the acronym, the St. Croix Economic Development Initiative. When we say SEDI, it focuses on the Virgin Islands, not only St. Croix, but all of the Virgin Islands. SEDI-CASE, St. Croix Economic Development Initiative. The acronym CASE is Caribbean America's Single Economy. Again, the acronym CASE, making the case, stands for Caribbean America's Single Economy. And I'm going to tell you why that's important from a branding perspective. But now you have anything to do with very specific, localized, parochial look at the internal economics ecosystem of the Virgin Islands. That's SEDI-CASE. Our signature policy initiative called the Caribbean America's Single Economy, called CASE, is what makes up SEDI-CASE. So coming up on Thursday, December 7th to the 10th is going to be our 16th anniversary of our major economic summit called SEDI-CASE 2023 Winter Economic Summit. I invite you to learn more about what this means and what it's all about. Go to www.wintersummit.us, not .com, www.wintersummit.us. And I'm going to go into details as to why this is so important. Let's talk a little bit about what really triggered some of the need to be able to do that. The U.S. Virgin Islands economy forecast for the immediate and foreseeable future is going to be consequential. Again, the U.S. Virgin Islands economic forecast for the immediate and the foreseeable future is going to be consequential, particularly for the island of St. Croix and an industrial economy. Again, St. Croix is not considered a leisure destination. Again, let me repeat that. St. Croix, from an airline perspective, when we talk about why don't we have more flights to St. Croix, is because St. Croix is not considered by definition of a leisure destination in comparison to, the Arubas, the St. Thomas, the St. Martin, the Jamaicas, all the other, St. Martin, all these other jurisdictions. We're not considered a leisure destination because we don't have that kind of traffic. Our tourism product is St. Thomas. St. Thomas is, by virtue of the number of visitors that they have that come off a cruise ship and the overnight and the infrastructure that they have and the direct flights with all of the legacy airline, the airlines see St. Thomas as a leisure destination. St. Croix is not. And that's important when you consider that the Virgin Islands' major GDP is coming from tourism. 67% of our GDP is represented by tourism. And so that's important to remember. And so when we as a territory, being a US territory, being America or the US in the Caribbean, we're competing with other neighboring islands that offer white sandy beaches, turquoise water, blue skies, and palm tree. There are 40 other island countries throughout the Caribbean and Latin American archipelago that is offering white sandy beaches, turquoise water, blue skies, palm trees. And if that's all we have, okay, it's not enough. It may have gotten us where we are today in terms of sustaining ourselves 60, 70%, but it's not enough to keep us there. So we now have to look at ourselves and ask where there's opportunity for us to diversify, to attract new industries, to create new businesses, to create new jobs, and to attract new investment capital to the territory, okay? Especially in the midst of a looming, you hear all the talks, will there be a recession? You've heard constantly. It depends on the the economists, experts that you hear from, looking at economic indicator, looking at data, looking at market data. They will give you their expert opinion as to whether they believe there will be a recession waiting in the background, or whether or not there will not be a recession. Okay, when I say looming, that's what I mean by that. So the question is, in the midst of a potential U.S. recession threat by leading economists and market indicators, stemming from, and remember all of this is not just an isolated situation. We're talking about a chain of events that have brought us where we are as a territory. Again, it's very important to understand that what affects us, what affects the entire world, affects us. We're not isolated. We're not operating in a vacuum. That literally what affects the rest of the world and the country affects us, okay? Stemming from global supply chain disruption from the pandemic and the Russian-Ukraine war in terms of the food grain blockade and other world conflicts, triggering inflationary costs of doing business and just simply living. Cost of living has gone up. Whenever the U.S. economy catches a cold, if the proverbial cold, the USVI economy catches pneumonia. Inevitably, these events can have a major impact on the U.S. Virgin Islands tourism sector, when considering the U.S. Virgin Islands economy is heavily dependent on tourism. The U.S. tourism represents 60 to 70% of the territory's GDP. The U.S. Virgin Islands economy has been facing global seismic and catastrophic headwinds, which I just mentioned. Some of what I just mentioned on a global scale, since the global 2008 Great Recession. In 2012, we saw the closure of Hovensa oil refinery. And remember, Hovensa created thousands of jobs. Hovensa was the second largest employer, but they were the largest private sector employer, creating thousands of jobs, okay? That closed, that business shuttered in 2012. In 2017, we saw the devastation of hurricane natural disasters of Irma and Maria. And then, of course, 2020, the COVID-19 global pandemic. So if you can see the chain of events that literally happened sequentially back to back, like a chain, like a domino effect, where it all combined together, created where we are today, okay? And so it's important to kind of, I'm putting things in context so people have the right perspective on what the conversation needs to be about, how we need to look at it from various lenses as to how we need to address this issue. As a result, consequently, the territory has been experiencing a shrinking economy and challenges and poor infrastructure. Keep in mind, in the absence of businesses, or let me say industries, having enough industry, the closure and the losing of the oil refinery is huge. Now we're hearing that the oil terminal, which are now two separate companies, there used to be one company on the Hess Oil, but once they got bought out to bankruptcy, the companies got splitted. And so they have separate owner that owns the refinery and a separate owner that owns the terminal. And now we're hearing that come February of 2024, that the oil terminal is in trouble. The likelihood of them making that $500 million loan payment that's due, that is going to mature in February 2024, the likelihood is very low. According to Standard & Poor's, S&P, they're saying, the rating agency, it does not look good. So the same things we saw with Hovensa, the oil refinery itself, the same dynamics and the same things we saw, that the writing was on the wall that led to the demise of the oil refinery, we're now seeing the same thing with the oil terminal. And I tell you, people, you saw what happened when we lost the largest employer, private sector employer, because the government has always been the largest employer in the territory. That has been that way for, it's called legacy. It's been that way for years. And so here we are now, where we lost the refinery, which was the largest private sector employer, shuttered. The Virgin Islands, from an economic standpoint, only has 700 manufacturing jobs. We went from thousands of manufacturing jobs to now only 700. And now we're now seeing the potential threat of the terminal now closing down or scaling back significantly, and people getting laid off, and it means an additional blow to our economy. Folks, we cannot afford that. So if we don't have a diversified economy with multiple industries, the government doesn't have the ability to depend on a multiple revenue stream of taxes that's coming in to support the U.S. government treasury. And if you don't have enough income coming into the treasury, you cannot support maintaining and sustaining the infrastructure. And we're seeing that right now. We have literally been surviving off of federal dollars that have been coming in since the 2007 Cat 2, Cat 5 hurricanes, Irma and Maria, since 2007, right? We saw that for 3 years, where we saw the benefit of the recovery, okay? The relief and the recovery. And then now we have potentially at least $10 billion earmarked from the federal government to be able to help rebuild our infrastructure, to bring it back to where it once was. But we can't get that money until we put up the matching fund locally. And so in other words, in order for us to get the 10 billion, the federal government is requiring the local government to put up $1 billion in order to now get that money. And here's how it works. So when the government, we spend the money, and the federal government reimburses. Again, let me say that again. The tens of billions of dollars, the billions of dollars, the 10 billion, that's earmarked for the Virgin Islands, okay, that we're supposed to get as a result of the devastation from Irma Maria. We're going to get that. That's available to us to rebuild our infrastructure, but we can't access that fund until we come up with $1 billion of the matching fund. This administration and previous administration has requested a waiver of that matching fund, that billion, but it has felt, well, let me not say it fell to deafening ears, but it has not happened. We have not gotten, the federal government, Congress, or the White House have not agreed to waive our, if you will, 10% of the matching fund, which is $1 billion. They have not agreed to do that. So that's problematic right there. Okay. So you're looking at where, as a consequence, right, all of these global major economic events, natural disaster, and then obviously that global healthcare crisis that we've had, which disrupted supply chain, the delivery, the manufacturing of things around the world, and the supplying the world, for supplying the rest of the world of the manufacturing of the goods and stuff, the goods and merchandise coming from different parts of the world. It disrupted that whole ecosystem, that supply chain, and obviously now it created a bottleneck, and cost of goods went up, and now unavoidably cost of living gone up as well. And so those are kind of things you need to understand why, when I say we've seen a shrinking in the economy and the challenges and the poor infrastructure, that's what I mean by that. Among the U.S. Virgin Islands, many economic challenges in the economy. The economy shrunk 24% in real terms from 2009 to 2019. The current U.S. Virgin Islands GDP is $4.4 billion. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the territory's economy between 2007 and 2012, revenues declined from $19.5 billion to $6.8 billion in 2012. Let me repeat that. And if you're listening carefully to what I said to you, you'll see how we got to where we are and where we were. The U.S. Virgin Islands economy, the current U.S. Virgin Islands GDP is $4.4 billion. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the territory's economy between 2007, and that was the last time we had the summit. Remember I said we did the summit, the St. Croix Economic Summit in 2007. So according to the census, US Census, starting from 2007 to 2012, the revenue declined from 19.5 billion to 6.8 billion dollars in 2012. The territory employed back then 35,300 in 2007 to now 32,465 in 2012. Annual payroll went from 2007 to 2012, stayed flat at $1.1 billion. The territory has seen a population decline of 105,000 people to now 87,000 people. So you understand when I say shrinking economy, declining the economy, you see how the evidence and how we got from where we were and where we are today. And again, let me just say that on December 7th to the 10th, the SEDI-CASE Winter Economic Summit will bring industry and market leaders together to discuss the role of both public and private sectors to foster better international trade, commerce, capital market formation and structure, foreign direct investment, FDIs, leveraging innovative technology to improve public infrastructure with an integrated and robust tech sector. Thought leaders from academia and knowledgeable based sector in the US and the Caribbean and Latin America, regionally, globally, and the potential benefit impact to their respective economy. In other words, we have forged partnerships. We literally took an approach where you call thinking outside of the box, taken an unorthodox approach to say, how do we position ourselves not just as a local territory, but how do we better connect and interconnect and build better relationship in terms of international trade and commerce and access to capital. This is what we are trying to do. We forge partners with other states and other cities to complement each other and other, if you will, other industries and private sector leaders within other states and cities throughout the United States to come together to talk about how can the U.S. Virgin Islands and these partners come together to be able to do that. We have signed memorandums of understanding. And there will be more memorandum of understanding, MOUs that will be signed at the summit coming up on December 7th to the 10th. And so you are invited to be at the table, to be present, to be able to meet when we unveil specifically, not hyperbole, not theoretically, not any of this. We're talking about the extensive research and development we have done for several years and forge partnership that sees the uniqueness and the value proposition to partner with the U.S. Virgin Islands because of the uniqueness and the things that we can do that they can't do, and the things that they can do that we can't do to allow us to be more attractive and to create critical mass. This is what we're talking about. And so come December, from Thursday, December 7th to then Sunday, December 10th, we will, over a 4-day span, we're going to be tackling the economic issues and talking about how do we right tool, how do we fix this economy. And we have partners who are prepared to partner with us to tackle this issue, not only from around coming from South America, but also coming from the rest of the the United States. Why? Because we have federal laws that enable the U.S. Virgin Islands to play a leadership role. We have not done so regionally. We have been complacent. We have not we've lived beneath our privilege and understanding the power that we have to emerge as a leader within the region, to foster and build economic bridges with other regional partners. We have not done that. And so there's a law called the U.S. Strategic Engagement Act in the Caribbean which was created in 2016 by former Congressman Elliot Engel, that exists, that says this is the commitment as an extension of the Caribbean Basin policy by the U.S. United States, being the largest trade partners to the Caribbean in the world. We can position and align the U.S. Virgin Islands to play an important role to be able to foster and align the U.S. Virgin Islands economy with the regional economy and the rest of the world. That's what this summit is all about. And so I want to be able to say to you, we want you to be involved. You have a role to play. Okay, you have a role to play, and so we need for you to be part of that process. So the SEDI-CASE and its various U.S. mainland, regional, and global industry and market collaborative partners will be meeting at the 2023 USVI Winter Economic Summit here in St. Croix to formally unveil and introduce our plans in 4 very specific areas. Listen up closely. These are the first 4 pillars of where we're going to address moving this economy forward, okay? First one, major economic development project initiative, Invest U.S. Virgin Islands. Invest U.S. Virgin Islands focuses specifically in the area of capital markets and foreign direct investments, okay? That project initiative is called VI-NICE, V-NICE, and it stands for, in our partnership with organizations like the New York Stock Exchange and New York City and other, Chamber of Commerce, Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, Greater New York Chamber of Commerce, we are calling that V-NICE, V-I-NICE, V-I-N-Y-C-E. It stands for Virgin Islands New York Cooperative Exchange between the United States Virgin Islands and New York. It's called under the Invest USVI. We have that program, and then we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna unveil that. Number 2, Acapello Tech. Acapello Tech is a new ecosystem of innovation and technology of regional collaborative partnerships, again, in the technology space, innovation space, okay? Number 3, Jumpstart Tourism. This is specifically to help St. Croix to finally become and branded as a leisure destination. These specific areas in which St. Croix have an opportunity to emerge as a leisure destination by simply focusing and targeting these areas in our Jumpstart Tourism area. Health, wellness, medical, and sports. Those are the areas where we're going to define St. Croix as a leisure destination, to include agriculture, and agriculture from a tourism perspective, okay, where we become a foodie event. Those are the areas in terms of how we're going to give and brand St. Croix as a destination, as a leisure destination. But right now, we're not perceived as a leisure destination. Besides us being in the Caribbean, having white sand, turquoise water, blue skies, and palm trees. Then we have, finally, the Caribbean America's Single Economy, which called CASE, making the case in the area of international trade and commerce. Okay, the U.S. States Caribbean Strategic Engagement Act of 2026 is what we're using as the tool to better align ourselves and build stronger relationship through international trade and commerce and capital market in this region. Expand and grow and align the U.S. Virgin Islands economy for the future and foster a leadership position regionally. Again, it has been more than 16 years since the last 2007 St. Croix Economic Summit was introduced and was held, creating the St. Croix Economic Development Initiative think tank, also called SEDI. The Winter Economic Summit will tackle the tough and challenging economic issues confronting the U.S. Virgin Islands economy to help stimulate and spur new industries, new businesses, new jobs, and attract new investment capital. Hence, if you are a business owner, an entrepreneur, a corporate executive, a professional freelancer, a government agency head, or simply a stakeholder, being a resident who wants to be involved and do your part, the public is invited to attend and participate in the SEDI-CASE 2023 USVI Winter Economic Summit. To learn more and to register, go to www.wintersummit.us, not .com, www.wintersummit.us. summit.us, www.wintersummit.us, to learn more about what the upcoming summit and to register to be able to be part of the summit. And let me just say again, thank you so much for allowing me to be able to share with you what you can expect and anticipate at the summit. And let me also talk about specifically when we talk about sports tourism, we're going to have a specific panel discussion around that. But let me just recap for you. There's 6 industry group panel that we're going to have discussion with, and we're going to have our partners from South America, from the U.S. mainland, and from Asia, who will be here to be able to talk about what that looks like in terms of this partnership and how we're going to activate and take next step implementation of these opportunities for the Virgin Islands. Again, the 6 groups are international. The 6 industry group panel formed for discussion and focus and activation and implementation is international trade and commerce, foreign direct investment and capital markets formation, transportation sectors, air and sea, supply chain and logistics and marine infrastructure, travel and tourism, the branding in terms of how we brand St. Croix as a leisure destination. When you say the word, this word is going to be synonymous with St. Croix in terms of health, wellness, medical, sports, fitness, and foodie from an agriculture standpoint as a tourism product. It's called Replenish. That's the branding. Our jumpstart tourism initiative for branding St. Croix as a leisure destination is called Replenish. And Replenish means health, wellness, medical, fitness, sports, and agricultural from a tourism perspective. Then we have technology and innovation sector. So we're going to talk about everything from our telecom infrastructure to our research and technology park, that the work that they're doing in the building of the $40 million tech village, and the role that we're going to play in being part of the supply chain to help produce electric vehicles through our partners coming out of Australia. Again, yes, Australia. We have formed partnership. We have a signed MOU between ourselves and Australia with operation in our South America, Argentina, and to be able to position St. Croix to come back to where we once were as a industrial economy, where we created manufacturing job. We're going to play an important role in the ecosystem of the producing and the building of electric vehicles called EV. Okay, and we're going to obviously we're going to tackle the issue of energy. That's right. That elephant in the room, if you will, called the energy problem that we've had for decades, going back. Somebody said the problem that exists with WAPR has been around since the 60s. So I was born in 1965. So obviously, my frame of reference only go back to, I guess, when as an adult. But here I am back home, and I'm hearing what was a problem today is the same problem that existed back then. Okay, and so we're going to attack the issue of technology as it relates to what are some of those different innovative technology sectors that we can take advantage of, and that will be discussed as well. We're going to have the owner of the refinery at the summit. Okay, we're going to have obviously we're going to have members. We'll have a presentation by the New York Stock Exchange. But when it comes to the presentation around energy and how we right tool and how do we better position and help that refinery transition and transform to the kind of energy producer that it should be. At the summit, in the panel discussion around energy, we'll have the owners of the refinery at the table discussing what the plan is to be able to do that, and what's going to be required to get that, if you will, that asset to get that asset back online again, because it's offline right now, and we're hearing threats that the oil terminal is about to go offline because they're losing money, and they got a payment coming up, a mature payment coming in that's due of $500 million. And so we got to really tackle the issue. Then we're going to also, most important, education, training, and workforce development, because Virgin Islanders are not going to be able to take advantage of these new industries that are going to be created unless we make the investment to better educate, to better train and develop the local workforce, so they are ready. So they're ready for those opportunities, for those creations. Okay, and then obviously we're going to talk about the role of government to finally allow the public to understand the real role. It's like a tongue twister there. The real role of government, and the role government has to play in doing their part to foster and create the kind of environment to attract new businesses, new investment, create new businesses, and create new jobs. Okay, and so we're going to have that discussion. But I want to go back for a second to say that on the transportation sector of air and sea, we have St. Croix is poised in a way that no other jurisdiction in the country is poised and positioned from an air and sea perspective. But specifically right now, the feasibility study to determine what size shipyard we can have is being conducted right now and will be completed shortly. And that's important in order to solidify what the economics looks like, and what the logistics of what that looks like, what the infrastructure needs to look like, what that business model needs to look like, in order for us to be able to determine the feasibility of building a shipyard. And that is going to be on the scale of the refinery back in its heyday and the number of jobs it created. The refinery was a labor-intensive business. The shipyard is labor-intensive. It will create literally thousands of jobs. Okay, and that's why it's important. And so I wanted to be able to share that with you, and say that. But let me close with this. I have worked long and hard. And at that time, I'm going to be honest, I felt like giving up. I'm going to be brutally honest with you, because I don't like to do a whole lot of talking. For people that know me, I don't like to do a lot of talking. One thing New York has taught me, New York has molded and shaped the person that I am today. Yeah, I am a Virgin Islander, born in St. Thomas. I know nothing about St. Thomas, because my parents moved from St. Thomas to St. Croix. I grew up partially in St. Croix. I grew up between St. Croix and New York. That's right. I went to school between St. Croix and New York and the tri-state area. Okay. And so I spent my formidable adult life in New York. New York molded and shaped me. And if there's one thing about New Yorkers we don't want to do a whole lot of talking. We are about that New York minute, movers and shakers, get it done, get it done, get it done, get it done. That's who I am. That's why I never gave up, even though politically I didn't get the support on the Virgin Islands Stock Exchange. Here we are now in 2023. We now have at the table the New York Stock Exchange as a potential partner to be able to negotiate with them to create a unit of the New York Stock Exchange in partnership with the Virgin Islands to create that emerging international alternative market in this region, outside of the United States, in this region. That's incredible. That's what you call a testament to a resolve, where I was determined to believe that we can get this done. And I never wavered. I never wavered. Yeah, I contemplating wanting to give up, but I stayed. I stayed put. I'm here. Okay. And so I can tell you honestly where we missed the boat on transportation. I had proposed to the Dr. Charles Governor Turnbull administration, where I brought an airline that was willing to partner with the U.S. Virgin Islands back in the 90s. Okay, I wasn't living here yet, but I was giving back, and I came back home in 2003. But before I came back home, I delivered on a platter, we would have had our own airline today. When I say airline, flying to the mainland, to major markets to the mainland, okay? Called that airline, Kiwi International, had agreed to allow me to broker a deal between Kiwi Airline and the US Virgin Islands, and it was going to be rebranded Virgin Kiwi International Airlines. That never happened, okay? That's a perfect example. Another example, before Seabourn relocated to Puerto Rico, not relocated, but moved to Puerto Rico, Seabourn was a locally bred airline. And remember Boston Celestia, that 700 passenger fast ferry that used to come in during the wintertime? I literally got those two companies to agree to partner with each other, to agree to sell those assets, to create the Air Sea Transit Authority called ASTA. Presented it on a platter. That was another example of how we build bridges, not between ourselves and the rest of the Caribbean, but internally, inter-island, between the US, between St. Croix and St. Thomas, right? Build the Air, Sea, and Transit Authority called ASTA. We had the asset that the government could have owned, could have contracted out to a private company to manage, and we would have had a transit system like New York, having an elaborate transit system like bridges and tunnels, waterways and airwaves. That's how we tackle these issues, not being fragmented, disconnected the way we are right now. It doesn't work. We have to change this. And so you're going to hear about how we are building a partnership with upstate New York, Newburgh, New York, where we're taking Stewart International Airport and building a bridge and a partnership between the Henry E. Rolson International Airport and Stewart International Airport to address positioning St. Croix to become a major air freight hub within this region. This is not hyperbole. This is not theory. This is years of doing the hard work and heavy lifting to get into where we are today. And the 2023 USVI Winter Economic Summit is going to take place on Thursday, December 7th to December 10th. We would like for you to get involved. You have a role to play. You can't be on the sideline. You got to get involved. It's nice that we can banter, we can chatter, we can talk about all the problems we have, but at some point you got to realize it's time for action. It's time for actionable plans and not just talking about it. It's time for us to implement viable solution. Okay? So I want to thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. My name is Anthony Weeks. I am the president of the St. Croix Economic Development Initiative called SEDI, and I want to thank you for allowing me to be part of this broadcast.